Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes.
No, no, no.
Yes.
I get to be the
Hi.
hype guy.
Hi.
I'm fired up. We have Cassie Green, Terry. This is not something we do every day.
I
Hello.
know, absolutely. Excited to have Cassie on. Cassie's a good friend of ours and a good friend of the industry. So
Indeed, indeed. Cassie, please give us the finer details, the finer points of your very VIP important position at Apparelist, at Printing United, at whatever, whatever. What's the score? What's the detail? Who are you and what do you do?
Well, I don't know. Like I was saying, like it's a huge honor to be a part of this because y'all are my friends, but I have mad respect for what you do in the industry. So yes, thank you for having me. Yeah, name's Cassie. I am the content director for Apparelist. And so for anyone who's not familiar with Apparelist, we are the business to business media publication under the Printing United Alliance umbrella that supports the decorated apparel community. So like full disclosure, I always like to kind of point out, like for a long time, Printing United Alliance, SGIA, did not engage with the apparel community. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to build an
Oh,
engagement. So,
so,
and it's a very personal thing to me. Like this is my job, but it's also personal. I described you guys as my friends. I love this community. I have lots of friends here. And so our content is here to support the community in sort of a more business way. So obviously lots of screen printers know how to screen print. Lots of people in heat applied graphics know how to use their heat presses and their transfers and all that cool stuff. That's great. But what we realized was like a huge gap in the industry is that maybe decorators don't have as much business acumen. So like how do you build a business plan? How do you financially prepare to grow sustainably? How do you thrive? How do you build a business in the print on demand space? Or how do you level up to be a contract decorator? All that stuff. So tying the technical creative aspect to the business aspect.
awesome. Well, Cassie, you've been on my podcast before and talked about sustainability, and I know that's a passion of yours. Give us the state of the union of sustainability in the apparel industry.
Um, so little good news, bad news there. Yes, sustainability is kind of like a big deal for me just because I see we work so heavily in it. You guys know this. You work heavily in the garment space. We see it every day. We see it beyond the apparel industry, but within apparel, let's start with the bad news and then end with the good news, right? Okay,
yes,
so
good
bad
call.
news, right,
Yes,
right.
yes.
Bad news, the world produces around 92 million tons of textile waste every year. Like, okay, that doesn't make us feel great. Clothing and textiles currently make up at least 7% of the total amount of waste in global landfill space. Only 1% of clothes get recycled into new garments. And then I just read this new study. And again, all these numbers can vary, but they're all pretty much within that same thing, but they do vary depending on source. However, I did just read this new article last night that said with the fast fashion, and now I heard the word like super fast fashion, which is not good. Like that's not a term we need to coin and have, but we have it now. But I did read only a garment will only be worn 7 times before it's thrown out. So two big red flags there for me is 7 times. Why are we only wearing garments 7 times? And then B, why are we throwing them out? So many options to reuse, recycle, all that stuff. So that's kind of the bad news. But the good news is people are aware of this issue and there's lots of things. We're starting to move beyond just talking about it. We're actually doing something about it. And we're seeing this wave primarily that has started in the EU coming over to the US. Lots of good things happening there, and we can go into that later. But that's the good news, is there's lots of action being taken.
Love it.
Cassie, who are these people throwing away T-shirts? Because I was just thinking this morning, I still have my 2008 Orange Bowl shirt from when Kansas beat Virginia Tech. 2008. I guess I'm a T-shirt guy, but I can't even imagine. I might try to throw it away, and I'm going to open a drawer, and there it is again. But at the same time, I last football season, I caught a T-shirt shot by the T-shirt cannon at an NFL game. Never worn it. It's I guess that's the disposable end of the industry.
Well, but wait, Terry, you still have it, so it hasn't been
I do have it,
disposed.
yeah.
True.
Yeah,
Good
yeah,
Because I know
point, Jay.
Cassie and I don't want to ever tell her I threw a t-shirt
yeah.
away.
Don't let her down, folks. You do not want
I,
that discussion. I'm telling you.
right. Well,
Well,
and I, like you said, Terry, like I was going through my closet the other day. I have t-shirts from, my high school years even still that
well,
are
lucky
fine.
for you, Cassie, you can say that and they still fit. But there are some of us, that
That's true. That was 100
I'm
pounds
just
ago for me, but
gonna let you know we're gonna go to the next question. So, no, kidding aside, I love this topic. I love your passion. And in fact, this was, if we can back it up for a second, that was also part of the reason we knew we had to have you, was because I read the Shifting Sands of Sustainability, part 1 by Cassie Green. And it was really, really good content. And so, folks, if you're not watching what Cassie and her team are doing, if you're not engaged at Apparelist, if you're not part of the Printing United Alliance, this is also part of that call to check in, call to say, am I really in the apparel decoration space? Am I really an apparel printing freak? Or am I just on the fringes? No more on the fringes. Let's get in, let's get busy, let's get involved, roll up your sleeves, And so I was really touched by that. Love that you were able to summarize kind of what's wrong, but that there has been a shift. We are starting to see some movement and people are actually doing things. So Cassie, so good. So glad that you're here. One thing I also want to say is that jumped out off the article. I don't know who said it. It was a quote. You were quoting somebody, but they said, use a better shirt. If you could just start there, that's something we could all do. And I guess that's really kind of part of my question is practical steps. What's something that apparel decorators can take? What's something that we could do that's going to reduce our impact or make a difference?
Yeah, and that quote was from Ryan Schraffenberger, promotions guy. But a lot of people you talk to will say that same thing. I mean, what a simple change that you can make to answer your question. Start there, like just use a better shirt, use a better product. There are
Yes, yes,
so
yes,
many
yes. Oh
manufacturers
my God.
making great products. Just use
Well,
a better.
that's where I'm coming from, is because not just because it's an advantage to your business, which Terry and I preach all the time. Terry, how many times do we have the discussion? Start with a better substrate, start with a better platform. Your foundation matters. But the fact is, you'll also be making a difference with the sustainability because the longevity of the shirt, it's going to stay in Terry's drawer, in other words.
And before it moves on to my other stack of shirts where lawn work or work on the pool, they get through stages.
You need shirts
But
for
I
that
derailed
too.
you. I derailed you a little bit,
Yep.
Cassie. So
You're
back
fine.
to, so what else besides starting with a great, great blank? The best blanks are going to be the ones that people love and keep. So that's a win. But what are some other things that you would put on the list of things to consider making an impact?
Yeah, yeah. So and totally find a derail because I love derailed topics because that's sometimes where you have the best conversations, right? But like other things you can do is in that same like mindset of buying a better, substrate, also look at like the supplies and equipment side of things, right? Supplies wise, are you, buying too much? Do we need to like if say, let's just for context, I know there are so many scenarios and we could talk for hours and hours and hours about it. Let's just kick this one scenario. You buy water-based ink, but you buy way, way more than anticipated. And now you're throwing some out because it goes bad, because it doesn't last, right? And so the thought process is like, build your business. You said it so well, Jay. Build your business on a better foundation. Plan ahead, know what your regular customers are ordering. Also, it's not bad to plan for like those customer weird orders that come in and stuff. But if you have a good business plan and you understand your customer base, you understand your costs, you understand, how like to make those purchasing decisions. Step one, just don't over purchase. Same thing with like the substrates. Are we over purchasing substrates? And now you have these shirts that have been sitting on your shelves for 5 years. They're no longer en vogue, which is another sticking point for me, but we're going to leave that for some other conversation. and you throw them out because you don't know what else to do with them. Like that's a huge problem, right? And so it's all in the mindset. So if you change your mindset and you change your headspace of like thinking bigger, planning better, great way for apparel decorators to start. I mean, we all talk about, okay, you could buy like, better light bulbs. You can buy low flow toilets. You can buy lights that turn off automatically on certain timers when people aren't in rooms. You can recycle. You can repackage and reuse your boxes. Those are all the big obvious things that decorators should already been doing, should have been doing for years, right? Because we've known that this is a thing for a while, but you know, those are some of the things. And the other thing I want to say too, like on the equipment side, is like one of the things I talked about in that article is Gary Bell, who's he works as a consultant for US Cotton. He pointed out, okay, so maybe you buy this new infrared heater that saves on emissions. Okay, that's a great thing to do, right? And so like when you're making your equipment purchases, consider those things. There's again so many manufacturers and suppliers that are like offering these types of equipment. Just again, better business purchasing decisions. In my opinion, that's where it starts.
I love
It's a
it.
great point. I love it. You hit it. You hit it. You crushed it. That's why you're here. Let's be real, Cassie. That's why we wanted you to be able to share with our audience. The Equipment Zone tribe, you know, we're all still learning, and they're all at various stages. Some are at the very start of their enterprises, and some are, you know, building these giant, you know, businesses. And so for Terry and I, at least, I kind of like to tease Terry because he rarely has plastisol ink under his nails like he used to. Because
I
almost
don't do it. I
everything,
tell other people how to do it.
almost everything we do at Equipment Zone now is based around water-based ink, digital printing,
Right.
whether DTG or DTF, we're using water-based ink. So we're pretty happy about that transition.
So Cassie, it's sustainability, sustainability, sustainability. We hear it everywhere now. Is it a fad? Is it a trend? And if not, what kind of opportunities does that present for our fellow decorators out there listening?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a trend anymore. Okay, like obviously you're talking to somebody who has a like super huge passion and maybe is a little, call it what you will, maybe a little biased, but it's not a trend anymore. And we did a great podcast about this in the month of April this month. We were talking to several different sources, and each one of them agreed that making the claim that this is a trend or a fad is actually kind of just becoming an excuse, which I thought was a really interesting way of saying it, you know, and all of them agreed that you can't just say, oh, it's a fad, it'll die away, it's just an excuse. Like, I really don't think it is, because those numbers that I was talking about earlier, like those are real numbers. That's not a lie. That's not just like some weird thing. Now, regardless of, okay, is it 92 million or 9 million? Yes, this is bad. And like when you're reading articles about, you know, piles of clothing in Chile being burned, and now we're releasing all of this, you know, toxicity into the, like, those are things that are actually happening. We're seeing this being a problem. There are countries in South Africa that are now banning, like countries like the US, from dumping their clothing there, right? So like, you can't argue against the numbers. It's really hard to say that this is a fad when there are numbers to support it. Wrap that in with now today's buying group, which is largely like millennials and what is it, zennials? I don't know. I try and keep up with the hip trends. This is zennials, whatever.
Just Terry's saying, just don't call me a boomer. That's what Terry's saying.
Noted.
I wear that proudly.
But you know, even the boomer generation, people are asking these questions. The consumer's pretty educated, thank you, internet, right? And regardless of whether that's founded or, you know, whatever, customers are asking for it. Customers want it. And the reality is if you as the apparel decorator are not making changes or offering, you know, better substrates, customers are going to take their money elsewhere. And so now again, that number doesn't lie. Your revenue, your profit could be impacted by it. So
That's a great point. Terry, that comes up a lot. We've had that discussion where the buyer has some control. The actual consumer is sometimes controlling the situation because they get to vote with their dollars. And this is a topic that really matters to them. It's not a fad.
You know, Cassie, the first time you told me about the landfill part of this, I'd always thought about sustainability as how much water's consumed in making a cotton t-shirt and spoilage and things like that. It never crossed my mind how much went into the landfill. That number floored me.
yeah, and you're right, Terry, because that's an important part to like focus on too, right? It's so huge. This is like I equate this to like the biggest cruise ship in the world, right? Like this is a big topic. And you're right, Terry, like the water issue is a thing. So you got to pay attention to that too. It's just like all encompassing.
Indeed it is. Well, since we're on that topic, Cassie, is there a myth, or is there misinformation, or is there something that you could correct, or something that you could share with us that the apparel industry and our friends here, our Equipment Zone tribe, what can you tell them that might be a misconception or a myth about sustainability that you can debunk, that you could kind of set the record straight?
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting. I was really thinking about this. This is totally my opinion, so take it with what you will. But in my opinion, the myth that this is too high of a cost and it's too expensive, to me, that's a myth. Okay, yes, it is more expensive to maybe purchase certain substrates, yet because they're higher quality. Yes, it might be more expensive to go into your business and have to change all of these things physically. Yes, it might seem like it's more expensive overall to make all these changes, but in the long run, is it? Because now customers are purchasing fewer substrates, so they're wasting less because they're holding on to their t-shirts longer, right? Okay, you as the decorator are making more money because if you're getting higher quality items, you should probably increase your prices. And again, that's a topic for maybe the two regular guys, the business gurus in our industry to talk about. But you know what I mean? And so there's less waste. So like in the long run, it really isn't that much more expensive. In fact, you might even be able to make the argument that you're going to make more money. You're going to do more because now you're speaking to a larger customer base because you're offering better items that a larger amount of people might want and all of that stuff. So I really just have to say, if you're going to say that, oh, it costs too much money to be sustainable, I would disagree. Really think about it. Think about your business plan.
Right.
Think about your options here and the future. Like if you're a good business person, you're thinking 3 to 5 years out, right? So I don't know. Is that a myth? Maybe. I think so.
No, I think you're right. And I think that you can look at the evolution of where we were 3 or 5 years ago. And maybe there was some truth back then. Maybe the 100% organic cotton shirt was more expensive, or maybe, a shirt that was better engineered with recycled poly was more expensive. All of those things could have been true. But nevertheless, as you see it evolve, it seems to me like the gap's getting smaller. I don't know. I mean, that's my perception. But to your point, so what? The demand is there. People are asking for it. So why not have that as part of your offering? So I don't think it's a myth. I think you're right, Cassie Green.
Well, so Cassie, so people listening today might say, hey, I'm not a $10 million screen printer. I'm not a $5 million embroiderer. I'm not a $1 million business.
Yeah.
What can I do to make less of an impact and be more sustainable? What are some thoughts on that?
Yeah. And so, I mean, it's no secret. I'm not a decorator. I don't run a business. There are things I do personally that help, right? And so my argument to that would be like, okay, you still, even though you're a small business, maybe you're only making 250K a year, and that's great. And you're doing great and you're cranking along. Recycle your cardboard boxes or just reuse them. Like the shipments that you're getting in of your blanks, your t-shirts, whatever substrate you're working with. Can you recycle those cardboard boxes? Or if you can't, are you reusing them? How are you getting those t-shirts to your customers? Because the reality is you can just put them right back in that box and give it right to them. So now you've saved money by not purchasing new packaging materials. You're either recycling or resharing them, and you're reducing your impact. It seems like a little thing, but so I was having this conversation last weekend with a decorator in Texas, and I was kind of like, again, I'm going to use the cruise ship analogy. Turning a cruise ship, it is not going to turn on a dime like a little speedboat. It is going to take a lot of work, a lot of effort. It takes forever to get it to change course. But even just, say every small decorator in America recycled all their boxes. That is going to have a big impact, even though they think they're small. Like that will, if every single person did it, it would have a big impact. And it doesn't cost you
true.
anything to recycle or reuse your packaging. Like that would be like one thing I would say is like, you can make a difference with those small things.
You know, Cassie, one of the things I teach in my screen printing classes is just that. And I go further and say, buy water-based ink, print right over that Gildan, that Hanes, that Sanmar logo, and say, as a friend to the environment, we have repurposed this box. And not only did you do something good for the environment, but you shared your you know, who you are as a decorator, as a business person.
Love that tip. Terry, knocking it. Wow. That little branding touch point though, that's cool. And you're right.
Here's a plus, you get a free box. So
Right. Nice, well said, Terry. Listen, we wanted to spend some time with Cassie on sustainability and getting into this, you know, some of the facts, some of the realities, right? And like you said, the big cruise ship that's slowly starting to turn. And I'm kind of excited that it is. I think, you know, Terry, it's safe to say that the two of us are a few years past 50, right? One of us a little more than the other, not going to say which, but that it still matters no matter what your age, and we can all do something, and little things add up. So Cassie, this was super good info. I know that our community is going to be excited to hear it from you, more importantly. So let's be real, Terry. And but you opened the door to something, Cassie Green. You said a little something. You used 4 initials, SGIA, at the beginning of this on the onset of, and so Terry and I were having this side conversation earlier, and we were thinking, okay, Printing United's coming up. We're about, what, 5 months out? We should probably know the date. Maybe Cassie knows the date by memory and could share that with us. I'll let you think in a second. But Printing United's coming up. It's a big deal. And we wanted to talk about that a little bit. Some of the changes, right, Terry? We were just having this conversation.
We were. In fact, I go back to SPA, the Screen Printing Association.
Ooh, wait a minute.
Then went international, SPAI, then SGIA, Specialty Graphic Imaging Association, and now Printing United Alliance. So, and you know, it's funny, when Jay and I were talking about it, I said, you know, I remember decades ago going to SPAI, and a lot of the vendors would look down their noses at we garment screen printers, because while they're in coats and ties, we were well, not me, but many of them were in those satin jackets that said Tony's t-shirts on the back.
Satin jackets,
it was oil and water in those days, not like today.
Satin jackets, and you probably had a bright blue one, didn't you, Terry Combs?
I had a blue one, I had a red one. Yeah, it's and
well,
no stones at satin jackets, because I sold thousands of them.
I'm not throwing stones anywhere, and in fact, I'm not stirring the pot. I wanted to talk about the good stuff. I wanted to talk about that there are positives, the transition. I mean, Cassie, since you've been there, think of the changes since you've arrived on the scene, right?
Yeah, lots
it's good stuff. Tell us about it. Tell us about some of this. It's good. It's really good.
Yeah, and I mean, thank you. Yeah, because like I said at the beginning, this has become pretty personal for me, because I love this industry so much, and it gives me great joy and like excitement to bring the industry back into the Printing United Alliance folds. And so it's just been like this whole motivating thing, right? So obviously we already talked about Apparelist. That was a huge way, but in the bigger scope of Printing United Alliance, we have worked really, really hard to bring that presence back to the Printing United Expo, which is September 10th through 12th. September 10th through 12th this year in Las Vegas.
Write that down. We're there. We're exhibiting. Come on, peeps. Let's go to Vegas.
You're going to see Jay and Terry there. Indeed. So come on. What other reason do you need to attend?
Well, there's a lot of other reasons.
Yes. But so yeah, the last 2 years, we've worked really hard to re-engage the community in this, you know, not only by bringing in or bringing back a lot of, you know, equipment and blanks manufacturers and suppliers, but also creating this space called the Apparel Zone, where it's a really very hands-on, very interactive, and very educational space. I mean, Jay, you've been a huge part of helping us get that off the ground. And there is a real thirst for education and hands-on knowledge within the apparel community. And so we really wanted to create that space where people felt that they could go truly learn how the equipment works and really see the breadth of decorating equipment. And also, by the way, speak to any wide format printers out there, any commercial printers out there. I mean, there are so many people we're seeing who are very interested in bringing on apparel decorating into their printing facilities. Like, this is the perfect opportunity, right? And then in addition to that, the Apparel Zone has really encompassed a very strong networking space. So we do like podcasts, like Terry and Aaron, two regular guys, have done their podcasts from there before. And so this is, again, really part to like really bolster that networking, I guess, theme or whatever you feel within this community. I mean, that's a huge thing, and we're really excited about it.
You should be. I listen, I'm almost tingling. I'm not kidding you. I'm almost getting goosebumps because I think, well, Terry knows my passion for this industry as well. I celebrate with you, Cassie, but the opportunity of the Apparel Zone, when that first hit my desk, I was like, yes, yes, we need to be there. We need to be involved. Yes, this is the most important part of a trade show. Obviously, we need speeds and feeds and yields and outputs and features and benefits. But you know what? Thank you. Thank you, Apparelist. Thank you, Cassie and your team, Josh, everybody up the ladder, because you saw an opportunity that is, quite honestly, a little more challenging with the traditional wide format and digital. Being on this side of it, having an apparel decorator get hands-on, network, talk about it, feel about it, and not just the printing side of it, but the actual business side of it. How to grow my business? How will this impact my business? What are the ups? What are the downs? And it was amazing. It was such an amazing opportunity. Equipment Zone was so proud to be there with Epson last year. I can't wait to repeat that again this year. And it, tip my cap to everybody there. We're super excited about it. Education for Terry and I is like, well, it's kind of like tacos and beers. I mean,
well, and the beauty of the Apparel Zone was, you assume when you're walking down through a trade show, if you walk into somebody's booth, the idea for them being there is to sell you something. Mm-hmm. and so you assume that's going to happen. In the Apparel Zone, it was all about education. I mean, we didn't have salespeople in our area there. It was we had a decorator who owns Epson equipment in that booth running the equipment, and we were doing panels and things like that. And so people, I think, could go in there and relax and feel comfortable asking a question that doesn't lead around to, and here's what you need to buy.
Right. No vampires were allowed in the Apparel Zone. Vampires. So, salespeople. So we had, it was just a huge event for us. I mean, it was so great. It was so great. I can't wait. Tell us more. Please tell us what's going on this year. Please spill the beans to the level that you can. Spill the tea, share the tea. I don't know what's the right cliche. Share it. Share the love, Cassie. What are we doing this year?
I mean, I personally like spill the tea.
All right, spill the tea.
So much of that you can use that on so many levels in our industry. But no, one other thing I wanted to point out really quick before I answer your question is, like, thank you to you guys, because you guys make it possible. Look, like, we really know, like, having these educational conversations is so crucial. Like, decorators are not going to succeed without these partnerships, without this collaboration. And that's the whole point of all of this, is like, it's a partnership. We're all here to lift each other up, right?
So well said. That's so well said. Thank you.
We can't be successful without each other. And in like that sense, we also can't, the decorators feel like this is a place where they can network with each other, because who better to talk business with than another decorator, right? Like, what are they doing in the trenches? So for this year, and I can only give you some little tidbits, but I'm gonna give them to you anyway.
You're not gonna give it all away, just a little taste, a little flair.
No, little flavor. So the little flavor is, look, we know we have success with that educational things. We're not changing that. What we are doing is really kind of marrying. If you've attended the past couple of years, we had like the Apparel Zone and the Future State Theater, but they were sort of separated, right? We're going to bring those two things together and really make that more of a cohesive effort.
Oh,
so people can go to the theater area, and I'm not going to tell you what we're renaming it to. You can go to the theater area, hear presentations, get some education, sit down, maybe take a minute, listen, then go through all of this, the areas, the different technologies within the apparel zone, take what they just heard and now hear how it's going to be applied within all of these technologies. So it's going to be a really coordinated effort between scheduled education presentations in a theater setting, and then that will flow nicely into like educational sessions with the actual decorating equipment.
Very cool. Very
so
cool.
that's really making them work well together. So that's
Nice.
one little tidbit I can
So
share.
they're physically closer. What did I hear you right? I just want to make sure. Okay. Very
all going to
cool.
be in the same space. We're gonna bring
awesome.
them into the same space.
Love it.
So
love,
that
love.
yeah.
Can I make a suggestion on the name? Could we have it Terry and Jay's Tacos and Tequila?
Oh, you know
No?
what?
Too much?
We'll do
Hey,
shirts.
tacos and tequila, like done.
Just speaking my language, right?
Just put it in the hat. There'll be other great suggestions. Just add that one in. We'll see what the
we'll
decision makers have to say about that later.
Exactly. We'll just hang out, drink a little tequila. I like it. Here for it.
It is the apparel zone. Is it going to be called something different, or do we know yet, or is that to be determined?
Maybe, maybe not.
Oh, you tease. Okay. I know. I knew you were going to do that.
Build a little anticipation. Look, apparel zone, just know that we are still going to have that core piece.
Okay. No, for sure.
Apparel
The
zone is still
concept,
going to be easily found.
Okay.
Yep. Concept in and of itself is not changing.
I'm excited for Vegas now. You got me all fired up, Cassie Green.
Good. That's the point. I'm fired up. Like,
what's the date again? I already forgot it. Somehow I just can't remember these details.
September 10th through 12th.
Thank you.
And where does somebody go get more information?
Just printingunited.com. Very easy thing to remember. You can also, that's printingunited.com. I would say that. And then you can also find plenty of information at apparelist.com. So a little selfish plug there, but we are part of the alliance, so we work together. So you can find plenty of information there.
Perfect. Agreed. And I think our audience needs to know that. I was just going to, dovetail into that. They need to be subscribers of that newsletter and that content. You guys are very fresh, very current, thorough. That's what got us onto this topic, was the article. So thank you, Cassie, for having, those resources. And I don't know, Terry, about you, but can you even really say you're an apparel decorator? In fact, one thing we didn't talk about was this idea of convergence. And I think that you guys do that very well. Like both the show and even Apparelist, you're kind of reaching out and you're saying to promo peeps, apparel geeks, and printing freaks, hey man, we're here. We're accepting of all. Everyone's welcome. Let's go have some tacos and tequila at the Apparel Zone, or whatever it's going to be called. And that Apparelist newsletter, I think, also invites those folks in, the print peeps, the apparel peeps, the promo geeks, all of us. We're all dysfunctional cousins at the family reunion. And I think you've built a place for us. So thank you again. I think that's a really good value.
And Printing United, for anybody that hasn't gone, maybe you've gone to regional shows that are more specific to garment decorating, you have to go, if nothing else, to see the enormity of the industry. It's just incredible to see. And the car wrap guys, they're not wrapping Chevy Volts. They're wrapping Maseratis. It's just an amazing thing to see, and plan for a few days to make it through.
Definitely. Highly recommend what Terry said, and wander over to the other side. Don't just, don't do the reverse of what Terry described of looking down your nose at oh, there's Xerox, oh, HP, whatever. No, go be loud and proud about your business. They could teach you something. Trust me, let's there's plenty of room. We can all get along. And I love the show. Obviously, I'm a big fan. You know that. I'm not trying to hype it. It's already a foregone conclusion, but I think I'm a little more excited about it this year than even last year. Last year was awesome. Terry, was it awesome, or am I overhyping this?
It was awesome.
Y'all are
my problem
so
is I
kind.
work in a booth and I can barely get out of it to see anything else. So
yeah, and I'm not just saying it was awesome because I got to stay in the Apparel Zone the entire time, and that the rest of the team was down there working hard. But we had some amazing conversations. We had so many new people that were excited to kind of ask a vulnerable question and not fear the response. Do you know what I mean? Like when you're not sure, you're like, this is the perfect place for that. So newbies, come on down.
Yes, we love newbies. We want to come on in. You said it best. Everybody's welcome. I will say to that point, I also tend to get corralled into the apparel zone and get in that area. But yes, please go see everywhere else. If anything, it'll just open your eyes to the enormity, like you said, of the printing industry. The situations, the opportunities you have are almost endless. Like they're vast. So talk about growing sustainably. This is great way to explore that.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's our show. That's our interview. Cassie Green, you're wonderful in every way. Can't wait to see you again. It's been so long. Luckily for me, it was only it was like basically a week ago. We got to hang out in Austin. So that was it. Sorry, Terry. Wah, wah. But I'm sure we'll see you soon. If not before Printing United, definitely there. Please keep us posted. Go to Apparelist, go to Equipment Zone. Everyone who's not watching this live, that's okay. Nobody watched it live because we recorded it. So it's going to be on our YouTube channel. And I hope a lot of folks get some value out of this. I know they will based on the conversation and because of Cassie Green. So Cassandra, I'm sure that's what your parents have called you. Thank you so much for your time today. You were an ace.
Aw, thank you guys for having me on. Love what you're doing. Want to continue to be part of it. So thank you so much.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, we'll see you soon.
Cassie.
Okay.
We'll see you over on Two Regular Guys podcast soon.
Yes, that's right.